Welcome to The Crucible, Conversations for the Curious. I'm Hamish, your host. In each episode, you'll hear from everyday people who've been through profound, life-altering experiences, from life-threatening illnesses or accidents, deep existential crises, addiction, or having to make life choices that have ultimately brought them peace, connection, and purpose. They've all stared into the abyss, walked through the fire of their own personal dark nights of the soul, and emerged from the other side transformed. This podcast is for anyone going through an awakening, a time of massive change, or questioning the meaning of life. You are not alone. You can get through this. I promise you, life is more meaningful and beautiful on the other side. Hi, and welcome to another episode of The Crucible, Conversations for the Curious. Today I'm here with Barbara. Thank you ever so much for turning up today, Barbara. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey, please?
Oh, wow, Hamish, where would you like me to start? Okay, I have come on quite a journey. It's been a number of years of evolving to where I am now. And it all started back, way back in my early years when I had a horrific accident. And I didn't really at the time connect it to how it was going to impact in my life and beyond, just getting through that, moving on. And yeah, you talk about an awakening. And it was one day when I was sitting in a consultant's office looking at my own MRI scans and seeing how this accident had impacted me. And it was like that sort of moment, oh my word, I've lived all these years with all this pain and been in such a state that I hadn't connected the fall that I'd had to this problem with my back and everything. And it was like a light bulb moment going off thinking, how am I just so disconnected to my own body that I hadn't realised quite how impactful the accident had been on me. And it was like, how did I not know this? It was like, so what did I do? I had to find a way of reconnecting to my body, reconnecting to myself. And that's what I've been doing over the last 20 years, really, and keeping myself healthy. And that's what I love to share with people, that we don't have to live in pain and I'm not going, oh no, I can't use that word. I was going to say crippled, but I was crippled with pain. It was quite horrible at one point. I was in a wheelchair and my family was impacted. My life was impacted. So when I finally found I wouldn't say a cure, but I found the source of where I could actually find my own health and well-being. And that's what I share with people now.
So you ended up in a wheelchair after an accident. So how did you turn your life around? Because obviously you were walking. I've seen you doing yoga and teaching Qigong. So you're no longer there. How did you manage to heal yourself, I suppose, for want of a better description?
Well, I wasn't in the wheelchair for a long time. It was a spell of when I was at one of my worst points. It wasn't straight after the accident. It was some years later. The impact of the accident over the years had created a deterioration in my spine, and it created compression of two discs at the lower in the lumbar region. And that over time, each time I had an episode, made it worse to the point where the pain in my leg became so bad I couldn't walk. And so I had to go everywhere in a wheelchair. So I wasn't in the wheelchair all the time. It was just, I could manage around the house. I would hobble about. But when I finally realised that it was beyond, I had to have an operation in the end to fix the lower spine, but it had also impacted further up my spine, in my chest and in my neck, which created another problem. And it was that took me to the consultant where I had the MRI scans. And seeing those scans made me realise that I could end back up in a wheelchair if I didn't start taking better care of myself. So I went on a journey, and it was quite by accident, pardon the pun, that I ended up training in a modality of Chinese medicine that enabled me to get better. And the first part of it was Tuina massage, which I was actually encouraged to go and get a certificate, to get a certificate in massage because of the job I was doing at the time. Kind of digress, taking the timeline has changed a little bit. When I was working as a speech therapist, I was preparing a communication system for young students with severe communication problems. And we were doing a sort of multi-sensory communication program. And of course, one of the senses is touch. And in education, you're not allowed to touch people. Excuse me. And so they said to me, well, if you get a massage certificate, you can do this. You can use all the senses. You can use touch. So I went off and found this wonderful massage called Tuina. And Tuina is Chinese, is a modality of traditional Chinese medicine. There's acupuncture, Qigong, Tuina, and herbs. And I was doing this Tuina. And when I was actually training, I was being given the massage by other students. And so we were sharing as we were learning. And it was just an absolute mind-blowing change to my health. 10 days of intensive work on my body. I came back feeling absolutely fantastic. All the pain in my leg had gone, which had been residual pain from all the episodes on my back prior to this. And I was able to walk properly. I was able to hold my posture better. I felt fabulous. And I just thought, do you know what? I've got to learn this. So I went into work on that Monday morning after doing the training, and I wrote my resignation and left my job as a speech therapist to go and train in traditional Chinese medicine. And I haven't looked back since.
You realize that if you didn't change how you were in the world, you were going to end up stuck in that wheelchair. So you actively looked for some practice or some way of healing. And tell me a little bit about that process. You started to change your awareness of your body, because I think that's probably where we need to go with this, isn't it?
Yeah, what happened was after I had been told, actually, when I saw the MRI scans, my consultant said to me, "Have you ever had an impact injury?" And it was it was one of those questions. I thought, "Oh, what do you mean?" And he said, "Well, looking at your spine, you've had 3 areas that have been affected. That's your lower back, your middle back, and your neck, which is why you've come to me to get these scans done." And I had to think at the time, well, what could have caused this? Now, this, you may think that I had this serious fall way back in my 20s, that I would have connected to that fall. But I had come through it. You know what you're like when you're young, you just get on. I mean, yes, I was in a lot of pain for weeks after that fall. And what I had done is slipped on a marble staircase. And the impact had gone right through my spine. Now, umpteen episodes later of having other falls and being a little out of balance, probably because of this impact injury, created more problems in my lower back, which then resulted in an operation. But then when it impacted on my neck, the consultant said to me, how could you not have connected that fall to all the episodes of the problems that you'd have over the years? And I just thought, oh, I just didn't. And it was that light bulb moment of thinking, oh my gosh, I am so disconnected. And when I left his office, I knew I had to find a way to ensure that I did not end up having the same issues of being in a wheelchair or the pain that I'd been suffering. So I went on this journey of looking for alternative I did acupuncture. I can't say that it made a huge difference because I had this residual pain in my leg. It was the damage to the sciatic nerve. And some nights I'd end up screaming in pain with cramps. And if I did any type of exercise, it seemed to make it worse. And so there was a journey of finding something that would take away the pain in my leg. I did physio. I saw a chiropractor. I tried what's the word, osteopathy, and everything just seemed to aggravate the problem in my leg. And it wasn't until I actually found and went on this course and had Twina massage, because they looked at the whole body. It wasn't just one. I know chiropractors do that and osteopaths do it as well, but it felt as if, because I was actually getting deep tissue massage, I was getting it deep into the lower layers, right down to the nerves, right down into my whole body. It changed everything. The pain went away. I was able to walk properly. I was able to stand well, and I could feel my balance was more in, well, it was more in balance. I wasn't feeling like I was going to fall over or my legs were going to give way. And it was just that whole, and when I got to work the next day, people said to me, "Have you been on holiday?" And I said, "No, I've been working. I've been learning this amazing massage." And it was like, well, oh, we want some of that. And that was like, yeah, you're going to get some of that because that's what I want to learn. And that was my journey into healing my own body. And from that point of going back, giving up my job, going to learn more about traditional Chinese medicine, I was introduced to Qigong. And that was a game changer and has been for the last 20 years.
Brilliant. So tell me about the Qigong then. It's movement, isn't it? But it's more than just that.
It's the connection it's like when we move our body, we tend to just, like if you're breathing, for instance, we just take a breath. We don't think about it. We don't kind of experience really or think about what it feels like for us when we breathe. But when we really focus our mind to the breath and reconnecting your thoughts with that feeling of the air going in, the expansion of your muscles, the expansion of your ribs, and the pushing down of your diaphragm. And when you're feeling that air going down into your body, and you're actually connecting to that, that's what Qigong does. It connects to everything, every movement, whether you're moving your hand in a particular way, and you're moving your hand so that you're conscious of it. You're conscious of that movement. And you're allowing your body to realize, what does that feel like? Feeling the air passing your hand. And the movements that we do in Qigong are gentle, but they're strength building, and they also help with flexibility. So it's an all-round, for me, it's the connection. It's that connection to the movement, to the feeling of the movement, and to what that does for you when you do it. And when you really, really get into that kind of, it's almost like a trance, but you're still conscious of it, where you're actually moving the body. To me, it's the ultimate form of exercise. And because it connects to my body, it's that whole body connection. And though all forms of Chinese medicine, to even acupuncture and the massage, everything is interrelated, that we look at the way that the body moves, the way that the energy flows through our body. And Qigong is made up of two words, Qi and Gong. And Qi is energy, life force, whatever you want to call it. It's that kind of everything. It's to do with what you breathe in, what you put in with your food, and how that is all transformed internally. And also what happens around your body, all that energy around you, the air, the sunlight, the rain, everything to do with nature. And it's this wholeness of all of that coming together. in the Gong part of the word is movement. So we're moving the energy. We're moving the energy right down to the cellular level internally, taking it all the way out to the external and beyond into the universe and nature.
So, in your journey of discovery, what started to change? I mean, you said you started to reconnect with yourself, but what other feelings and emotions came up as you began to make sense of where you were and where you wanted to get to?
When you connect into your own body, after all, we only have one body, and it is this, for me, that moment of realizing if I didn't take better care of it, it's the only one I've got. It's the only body that I am ever going to have. And that's that I wanted to be able to move with ease. I wanted to be able to feel pain-free and to feel energized. And where this has taken me over the years is that as I'm getting older, yes, there are times when my body may think you're getting older. And I'm not saying that I don't accept getting older. I do. It's just that I would like to do it with more ease and comfort, and not to feel that age is something that is going to stop me achieving anything. And as I've gone through the years of practicing Chinese medicine and various other modalities, I've become more and more connected into that mind-body ability to realize that everything else is important externally, but if you're not well internally and you're not feeling great, everything else outside is an effort, and it becomes possibly with pain, with not being able to sleep, stress, anxiety. And what I have discovered over the years of various practices coming into my clinic and where I'm going with this is actually I want to reach more people. Being in a clinic, I'm only really reaching one-to-one. I can do Qigong classes and I can reach more people. But I want to take my journey next to reaching even more people, to showing them that it is possible to, as we do get older, to stay healthy and fit and to sleep better, to lose weight, to feel that energy. And I feel more vitalized and energized than I have done the years before I started this journey. And it's continuing on I'm not willing to give up peacefully. I'm just keeping going. I'm developing and understanding more about my own body. And in doing that, I want to share it with other people. And the more people I can reach, the better they will feel.
I think that's fantastic. Just that understanding of what you've gone through, that experience of what you've gone through and the results. And then you've got to go, I want to share this because it is incredibly important. And it must have been really scary just to sort of get more and more debilitated and realizing that you're just not connected. What makes that disconnection become such a damaging part of our life?
I think a lot of it is to do with the way we're living our lives. We're not just disconnected to our bodies, we're actually disconnected to society. And a lot of this around the stress that we're all living through more recently is beginning to impact our health. We had COVID where we were isolated from each other. Some people died from it, and the loss on all of this has impacted us quite significantly, mentally as well as physically. I think I may have just had COVID recently, another form of it, and which is why I'm left with this kind of constant clearing my throat. But I'm aware that there are things I can do to help relieve that, and I've come through it fairly quickly, which is really good. And that goes to prove to me that I take care of my body, that I'm looking after it, I'm eating well, I'm moving, I take exercise, Qigong, and I swim when I can. And So there's things that we can do to help to keep ourselves well, but there seems to be this, we're in such a rush all the time. We seem to feel that we've got to achieve so much in the day. And our society, I do believe, is putting that pressure on us as well. Some people are working 2 or 3 jobs. I mean, that just is nuts. Excuse me for saying that, but it really is. It's like, why are we having to live this life of rushing from here to there, making demands on ourselves? That this is where the disconnection is coming, because we're not realizing what is happening to our bodies. And I was like that. I was like that in my younger years. I thought I was invincible. I didn't, I had an accident, so I thought I could just get through it and there would be no more consequences. But there were. And it's not until I realized the consequences of that fall and how many other falls I had since then were due to that first impact. And having that disconnection is what many people live with, because we're just living our lives. And if when I have come to the conclusion that when we actually reconnect with our own self and our own bodies and how we think about our health, then it can change hugely how people can make that adjustment to taking better care of themselves. And by doing that, they're able then to care for others. We're constantly using up this energy that I talk about, this chi, this whatever, this life force. We only have one life. Let's live it to the full, but not to the point where we're wearing ourselves out. That we could take more time to just be at peace and sit for a few moments each day and just allow ourselves to reconnect with who we are and our body in their mind and the physical.
What can we suggest to people that will help them to reconnect, to help them slow down and feel their bodies, feel and begin to practice a little bit more self-care?
Okay, well, I start with the breath, and we all breathe. We have to. It's one of those things that we're probably not conscious of it until we actually think about it. And I understand that there are some people like yourself, Hamish, who finds it very difficult to just sit still. But you're doing that right now. You're talking to me and you're sitting quite still. So you have that ability to do it. It's when your mind is racing off and thinking, I've got to go and do this, I've got to go, I shouldn't be sitting. And it's beating yourself up in a way of thinking there's too much to do, I shouldn't be sitting. But why? We don't have to sit, we can stand. We can stand and just be at peace. And this is what I teach in the Qigong, is how to stand correctly, in that you are actually, when you stand properly and your body is in alignment and you feel that, you will feel that heat building in your body. And all of this is you become aware of things, and you connect to that. You connect to the feelings that you're experiencing, whether you're sitting or standing. And then we go into the breath. And then we do this breathing exercise that's just playing with the breath, allowing it to do different things. Because that's the beauty of breathing, is while we have to breathe and our body will not let us become unconscious, if you hold your breath long enough, your body will tell you you've got to take a breath. But when we start to play with the breath and we can consciously connect with the breath, that in itself helps you to calm everything down, because you're going into that, changing the wavelengths that are going on in your brain. So you'll go from that kind of busyness, the alpha waves, right down to the delta waves, where you're almost asleep but not quite. You're still conscious, but you're still conscious of what's going on internally. And by playing with the breath, we can change how we feel in different ways. We can speed up the heart, or we can slow it down. Isn't that amazing? We can do that just by standing. And that's one of the
Hmm.
things that, that's connecting. That is really connecting to the body and to your own feelings internally. And then we play with that for a bit. And then you'll start to feel this heat building inside your body that is actually all this energy moving while you're being at peace and being still. We should try it. We'll try it one day.
We will have to. So, is that things like I've heard of box breathing and 278 breathing? Is it things like those? Can you explain what those are?
Yeah, box breathing is like you imagine a box. So you've got four sides, and each side is of equal size. And so you breathe in, say, for a count of four, breathing in, holding it for a count of four, and then breathing out for a count of four, holding it for another count of four. So it's equal lengths of breathing in, holding, breathing out, holding. If you wish to change it to slightly longer, this is a good way of actually stimulating the vagus nerve. So you will breathe in, say, for the count of four, and hold it for the count of eight, and then breathe out for the count of four and hold it for the count of eight. So that's another one. Now, to really get things stimulated, I would like you to just take a deep breath in and just hold it. And now what I want you to do is breathe all the way out. Keep breathing out until you can't breathe anymore. Now hold it. Now hold it. You're not going to breathe in yet. Just hold it as long as you possibly can. Hold it until you eventually, your body's saying, I need to breathe. And when your body says, I need to breathe, take a breath in. There you go. Now, if you do
Wow.
that 3 times, yeah, you'll start to feel a little bit spacey. But what you're
Mm.
doing is you're stimulating the vagus nerve, and that's the biggest nerve in the body. It's the one that, basically it keeps all your internal organs working properly, and it also helps with it keeps your breathing going. So it's your heartbeat, all the somatic influences inside you, and also your digestive system, all the organs. The vagus nerve is so important. And we often, when we're breathing, we tend to breathe quite shallow when we're just normally breathing. When you actually play with the breath and doing that one where you hold it right at the end, your body is craving oxygen because you breathe everything out. Your body is craving oxygen. You're telling yourself, I'm going to have to take a breath, and you kick it in, and that stimulates your vagus nerve.
Feel myself beginning to get dizzy just doing that once. So,
Mm-hmm.
suggest people sit down when they do that.
Yes, I wouldn't have them standing up doing that one. It's yes, it's very important to sit down. And if you feel dizzy, don't do it again. But keep practicing it. It's a great way if it stimulates. A great way to start your day actually, stimulating the vagus nerve first thing in the morning. So you can do it lying down, just doing it that way. But be careful when you get up. You may still feel a little bit dizzy. And that's just because you have deprived your body of oxygen, and then suddenly you're taking that big breath in. That's a really good one to just practice every so often and really get your vagus nerve stimulated. So as you see, there's lots of different ways of breathing, and there are also ones where you can breathe in, and as you're breathing out, you do it pulsing. Again, taking it to the end of the breath, just holding for a few seconds and breathing in again and pulsing. Doing each time you do anything, you're doing it 3 times, just to let your body get used to that. Again, it can feel a little bit, you're going to get a little bit lightheaded. That's okay, as long as you're sitting down or lying down when you're doing it. But it's the playing with it again. But this is my most favorite. If you take a breath in and then take another breath in, what you're doing is you're taking the whole breath right down into your diaphragm, taking that first breath in, And then you just feel as if you're lifting, you're not going to lift the shoulders, but you feel like you can just take that little bit extra breath in. So let's try this again. We're going to breathe in, and now I'm just going to take another wee breath in, and now breathe all the way out and breathe out again. It's amazing how much you can do, even more, even though you think I've filled my lungs, but you can actually fill them a little bit more, and then you can empty them, and you can empty them a little bit more. And I love doing that one. So there's
Thank you
lots
for
of
those. I
nice.
think that's
Okay.
really useful. They're great little exercises. Yeah. So there's breathing. What other things can people do just to sort of help keep them grounded, or keep them, when, as you said, this is again not what I want to do. Those were great exercises. I'm definitely going to try those. So what else do you find important when it comes to understanding your self-care and looking after yourself?
Wow, that's a big one, Hamish. There's lots of, because I'm a holistic therapist, I look at all kinds of things to help people with their health, whether it's the way they want to lose some weight, I can help them with that. But it's not about putting somebody on a diet. It's about recognizing what it is they want to be able to achieve by losing weight. So it's not about saying, oh, I just want to lose some weight. It's about, no, what's the real reason about what's your motivation, if you like, what to do to lose weight. I could give somebody a diet, but they wouldn't follow it. It's about really getting into the understanding of what is stopping them from taking better care of their health, and what is their motivation for, say, losing weight. For sleep is another huge one, which is an indication of stress. If people are not sleeping well, there's an indication of stress going on there, and that we often, because we're living such busy lives and we're on the go all the time, our brains never really get to be at peace. And this, doing this breathing work and all the other things that I can show people what to do, can help with sleep. And Qigong is so, well, it's a very, what I would say is my go-to for everything. When I'm a little bit out of sync with myself, if I just do some Qigong, it brings me back to this. This is the whole beauty of Qigong, and it's why I talk so much about it, is because it connects you to your body. And whatever somebody's, they want to give up smoking. Well, I have other techniques. I use the havening technique and hypnotherapy, which helps people to stop smoking. So there's lots of little tools I have in my toolbox. And when we were talking about the breathing earlier, I often do some havening with the breath work. And that is another way of helping people to get back into that calm state by just stroking your arms, just gently stroking your, and listening to calming music, if you like that. I'm not particularly one for doing that myself. I just sort of take myself into a nice place, imagine a nice situation, and just gently stroking my arms, allowing my body to come back down into that calm state. And do you know what? This is a great technique if you're feeling stressed, is just stroking your arms and just allowing yourself to be at peace and calm, and just imagine yourself being somewhere lovely like the beach or the forest, and just feeling yourself nurturing yourself. And this creates delta waves. Again, I talked about them earlier, the delta waves that calm down the body, bring your brain waves down so that you feel like you're much more at peace. And what else do I help? Back pain is a big aspect of what I talk about. And on my website, you'll see there's a whole story around my back pain and how I got better. And back pain can be caused by stress, mental health issues. And it's about finding ways of reducing the stress and mental health, building our resilience. And havening is a great tool to do that. It's helping people to build their resilience.
I want to take it back to an awakening. So let's assume one of our listeners is struggling with some physical pain, or they're realizing that they have to change something because there's severe back pain or neck pain, or there's been a physical trauma, what would be a process of working out what to do? So they haven't met you, they're on their own journey, and they're looking at steps or something. What would be a way to start to understand what they need to do?
Well, first of all, recognizing that they want to make change. They would like things to be different. And what I love to, when I talk to people, is to get their background story and to find out where all of this has started from. And some people may not, like myself, for instance, I may not have realized that it was all to do with that original fall. And other people, people may be the same, that they don't know particularly what started all of this. But there is a point where there is a root cause of why they're presenting. And with what I help people to do is actually to find that root cause, is to delve into their past, to delve into their how they've lived their life, their lifestyle, what they're doing to take care of themselves now, what they've done in the past. And it's like a roadmap, if you like. I ask the questions and get to the root cause of where all of this starts from. Sometimes when we don't recognize what has created all of this, it's going to be very difficult sometimes for people to think, well, I'm here now, I want you to fix it. Why can't I fix it? What's going on? But once you get down into the real aspect of what's brought them here in the first place, they can actually start to see that there was a time before it all started. So there was a time where they had no back pain or they had no illness, and that we can get back to that feeling inside our body. That would be what I would help them on their journey to do, is find that peace within themselves. It's just there. It's just we need to find it, and then we build back up from that. And though you could say, but I'm in constant pain, I can't get rid of the pain. Yes, we can. We can reduce it. There are ways to help reduce. You may not get rid of it completely. Pain is needed for us to be aware that something is going on in the body. But when we are living with constant pain and it's all we can think about, it can take over your life. But when you're able to then reduce the feeling of that pain, be able to switch it down, if you like, turn down the dial, then we can actually start to rebuild their life. And Qigong helps with that as well. Once you're connecting into the body through the movements, and you're seeing that you can make those movements. Sometimes they may not be comfortable, but you can still do it. And then you can build on that. But it's always done very gently. There's no pushing to the point you've got to be in pain. There's no pain, no gain. That doesn't compute in my vocabulary at all. And yeah, it's a process, and it can take a long time, but I'm a guide. I feel like I'm a guide. I've guided my own body to health and wellness, and I love to help and guide other people to their health and wellness.
So it is becoming self-aware. It is self-care. It is changing how you believe and, I guess, love yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The words we tell ourselves, the way we think about, all the thoughts that we have in our heads, they're words. We've taken them, the words that we're told, and we can change those words. If we have lived with constant negativity about ourselves and our bodies and how we feel, like I'm fat, or I wish I could change this, or something like that. If you tell yourself, I'm going to feel great today, even if you're saying to yourself, well, I don't really feel great. But if you say it to yourself, I'm going to be great today. I'm going to achieve so much today. And you write something down, and there's lots of techniques that you can use to help stimulate a more positive thinking. And when you start thinking more positively about how you feel about yourself, Doesn't matter what you look like. We're all unique. We're all different. We're all shapes and sizes. And I sometimes think, oh, I wish I could lose some weight. Well, I did recently because I was ill. Now, it's not a great way to lose weight, but I'm not worrying about it. I'm not sort of thinking, oh, I've got to go on a diet. I've got to do this and do that. It would be nice to be a little bit slimmer, but I accept as we get a little bit older, us women tend to put a little bit extra weight on. I think it's our hormones. Now, that's a whole other story, which I am not going to go into today. But it's like, I love my body. I think it's beautiful. I think that I have this uniqueness that is me, and I love who I am, and I love the energy that I try to show people. And well, I don't try, I do. I put this energy out that you just love yourself. Give yourself a hug. You deserve it. We all deserve it. And doing the havening, giving yourself a hug is just so special. What's not to love? I know that there are some people who don't feel like this. It's very hard for them. I'm not making it light of this. I know what depression is, and I've been there. I know that feeling of feeling that the world is just, you're carrying it on your shoulders. But with all the techniques that I have at my disposal, I can lift my energy. I can lift my thoughts. And when I catch myself saying something negative about my body or myself, I say, uh-oh, where are you going with this? What are you doing? And asking myself, well, do you want to do that? Or do you want to change it so that you feel a lot better? What are you going to do? So I talk to myself. I'm constantly re-energizing. I love that. I love that feeling that I can re-energize. I can re-energize my thoughts and my body by just thinking it. Isn't that amazing? I'm doing it now. You can tell.
That is amazing, and we are creative. We are very powerful. I mean, you've implied there that if I'm going to think the world is grey, it is grey. It is grey. It is dark, and the universe will say, "Yeah, it's grey. Here you are. Here is proof. Here is proof." And I love that. If I'm going to change my perspective, my way of thinking and viewing the world, I can make it rosy and shiny, and I can make that my reality. And why not make our lives easier? I know people are often addicted to their own pain or their stories or their emotions, but it's not always helpful. But how am I going to get out of that state of being when I am feeling beaten up the whole time? How do I start to move from that space? Because I know I want to. I've heard the stories. I've heard do this, all sorts of things. But how am I going to start to believe that I can do that? Because it's difficult.
It is difficult, and I appreciate that I can say that I've done this, and it is about beliefs. We all have beliefs about, again, it comes back down to, what do you believe? Do you believe that the world is as bad as you think it is? Do we believe that we're never going to get better? You're never going to feel that. So if you believe that, it's about changing that thought, because that's where people can be stuck. They are constantly stuck in that belief that the world everything is awful. But when you can show them that there are changed ways to, that there is a difference, there are different pathways. You can see it where it's like a timeline almost. Like you've got at one end there's the negative, and at the other end is the positive. And we can move back and forward along this timeline. And through this timeline, we can find words, thoughts that are different. Some will be more towards the positive, and some will be more towards the negative. And this is a technique that I use where I'm working with people, is that we take them back and forward. And we go back and forward along this timeline. We can change the words that we feel and think as we're moving. It's quite subtle, but you come to that point where you end up in the center and you feel quite calm. And then when that calmness comes over, you can start feeding in the more positive. What feels better for you? Is it this going up the way towards the positive, or is it going down towards the negative? And when you start getting to that central point, when you're starting from the central point, you can move back into the more positive, because you have positive words. We all do. We all have positive feelings. Even in our darkest moments, there can be positive. And it's finding that and getting them to think about and talk about what those words are. After all, a word is a thought. A thought is a word. A word is a thought. If we're thinking constantly one way or the other, it's about moving. It's movement. It's moving that energy one way. If it's down here, we want to move it up here. And it's about allowing that movement and accepting that you can say those words, and you can feel the words, and it's a feeling. Where are you feeling it? What does it feel like? Is it a feeling that you would like to change? What could you change it to? Could you change it to a colour? Could you change it to a shape? Can we change that? Can we make it bigger or smaller? And we can do this within our own thought processes, because that's what thoughts are. They're words we tell ourselves. Does that explain a little bit about?
It really, really does. So what you're saying is, or my understanding, breathe, get yourself into a state where you are not monkey mind, you're not going da 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 da, and then you're calmer. So you're bringing yourself to that center, and then it's looking at what you say,
Yes.
whether your bias is negative or unhealthy, and then just looking, well, what can I change? I mean, I used to say I'm stuck, I'm struggling, and I've taken those words out of my vocabulary. It was a challenge. Stuck is now challenge and things like that. But as I've changed those words are power, as you said. As I've changed those words, I'm feeling different. I'm
Yes.
cognitively different, and it's exciting. It was quite powerful. It's very powerful. A friend of mine says, words are
It
spelling. They
is.
are spells. It's quite a funny phrase, but they are powerful. And if I can change my phrasing from I'm stuck, I'm lonely, I'm hungry, I'm sad, to curiosity around that, then there's that chance to, exactly as you said, to look at that awareness, look at those possibilities, those potentials, those choices. So it is choices, isn't it? It's always, I have a choice to be in pain, to be suffering, to be uncomfortable, to be miserable, or I can choose, and it takes some effort, to move in a different direction.
Definitely is that. And it's choice. It is choice. I worked with someone not so long ago, and this person had quite a traumatic experience, and her history was quite significant in that her whole life was quite traumatic in all aspects, right through from childhood. And she could not see how she could change her thoughts to be positive, to be saying positive words, because everything in her life was very negative. But I said, and words like love and happiness just didn't compute. So I said, well, their words exist. Those words are there. You may not feel them at the moment. I said, but those words are still part of a vocabulary that we can tell ourselves. So we had a lot of work it was a lot of work to help her to understand that she could use those words, so that when she started saying something negative, we would stop and think, okay, there's an opposite to that. What is the opposite of that? So what word would you say that's opposite to anger? What would you say is opposite to hate? What is the opposite? So when you have all words have the opposite, so we can play with that. And by going up and down this timeline, she began to start to use those more positive words. And she now accepts that she can love herself for all her faults that she feels she has. She can love herself. Now that to me is of great success. And she has come through a tremendous amount of change over the past couple of years of working with her. And it's made such huge strides in her life. She's now gone from feeling unworthy to feeling worthy. She's got a job. She's able to paint. She's being more creative. She's doing all the things that she's been wanting to do for years but never had the courage to do it. And she's writing a book. And I mean, the things that it's just taking someone on a journey that it is possible to make change and to change the way we think and feel about our thoughts.
That makes an awful lot of sense. And I think for me, I didn't realize I could change my beliefs. I had no concept that I could do that, and I didn't give myself permission. So do you find that people don't realize that they can change their beliefs, or they don't give themselves permission, or they want to, but they don't think they have that permission or even are allowed to change?
It's almost like we're conditioned to follow a pattern of how we live our lives. And our beliefs confirm how we live our life. And yes, you're right. There are some people who will not. They're stuck. You use that word. They're stuck. That they can't see that there's something else. But when they work with other people, and I think this is, there's so much out there now that we can tap into to understanding that we don't have to conform to everything that we've been told we have to do, that we can make change. And to have that beliefs are what keep us where we are. They're there, whatever it is, whether it's you believe that you're not worthy, or you're not able to do this, you've not got the training, you've not got this, and you're constantly looking for something to actually make it so that you think, I am able to do this, I am worthy. But unless you actually change that, the thoughts on that belief about that you're not worthy, you have to tell yourself that you are. You have to practice it. It's not so, you've practiced feeling unworthy. Now practice being worthy. It's about it. We've done years of practicing all the negative. And yes, you're right. I agree that there are people who feel that they can't change beliefs, but you had to form that belief in the first place. That came from somewhere. So when you have that, we can undo that. We can unpick it to changing what that belief is if it's not serving you. And our subconscious always wants to go back to what we think is safe. That's part of the brain that it's like the monkey brain you talked about, where it wants to keep you safe. You can't overstep. That's too risky. But actually, it's when you realize that you can make those changes and not be at risk to yourself or to your life, allow your subconscious to play with it and realize that you're still safe.
It's just a belief. It's just what that current reality is, and why can't we change it? I had to change an awful lot of my beliefs, and it wasn't easy, but looking back at it, they were mine. They were my beliefs, and they were mine. And why should I let them go? And yet when I questioned them, I got curious about them, I played with them. I love the fact that you like playing with all sorts of things. So when I played with those beliefs, is that true? Is that way that I got brought up true, or is it true for those who taught me that? I mean, that's going down the lines of ancestral beliefs and ancestral stories, which are same as societal beliefs and stories. They are just what we've been provided with. It doesn't mean they are right. But I had to look at those and question what my parents taught me and my grandparents taught me and society, and said, yep, I agree with that. I'm going to be courageous. No, I'm not going to be that.
Mhm.
But I had to ask for permission. I didn't realize that I was able to. And once I realized that, things just changed. It became effortless. Not easy, but effortless. I had to put the thinking in. Okay, so it's all about being curious then, isn't it? That's really important.
It is, and the more curious you are, I think some people are just so locked in where they are in their lives that they're not curious as to what is possible. When we start playing with words and thoughts, what our thoughts are, and being curious about what they feel like inside our bodies, because all thoughts create a feeling, and those feelings may need a word to describe them. But when we start playing with all of that and be curious about it, what does that make me feel? Like I got butterflies in my tummy, or do I like my heart racing, or do I feel this excitement? Do I feel joy? What words come into my thoughts? And then we play with all the words and then the feelings with the words, and back and forward and back and forward. And I love that. It's almost like a game where we can try different things and be curious about it. It's yeah.
I think that's brilliant. I love that whole idea. Now, here's a question for you. Which comes first, the emotions or the thought or the feelings?
Wow. Yeah. I see it as a circle. It's a good question because when we were born, we had no thoughts. We only had feelings and emotions, and we had no words to place what these were. We just had the reactions as babies, and then those feelings were all developing, and we were making connections within the nervous system through those feelings and emotions. And it's not until we start to have words, we say words, and there's a connection with the word, the sound, to a meaning. So my belief is the emotions come first, then the words and thoughts are very interlinked, because when you don't have what is a thought? It's we have to have words to express what that thought is, but we feel it. So I think the feelings are always that we have this gut feeling. We can have a gut feeling, but we can't really explain what it is. So that feeling is there, and we may not be able to explain it until we sort of start putting the words to it. Um, so I think the feeling, and that's often we don't tend to connect with the feeling because we're so in our heads with the thoughts and the words that we use. But when we connect to the feeling and use that first, it can change your thoughts. It's an
Yep.
interesting one, isn't it? I think there's a lot of debate about which comes first, but my feeling is feeling. It's feeling first. I've got that feeling, then I connect to the thought on it, which gives me the word that I can place to that feeling.
That makes so much sense from that perspective. Yeah, as a baby, there was pain, there was smile seeing mum, that came first, and then the language to explain it. I like
Mhm.
that. Because we're not our thoughts or our feelings, are we? They're just messages.
I, what would we do if we didn't have words? How would we express our feelings and thoughts to other people? We would have to use body language. We would have to use ways of that communication, which was probably part of our ancestral development. And we still do it. We use facial expressions. We use our hands. We use our body. Carrying our body in certain ways can show us how we're feeling in the world. But we can't do anything with those feelings if we're not connected to each other and being able to share it. And I think this kind of takes us right back to the beginning in a way, is that this connection, humanity is being disconnected by the way we're living our lives. And that in turn is disconnecting us from our own bodies. Whereas with humanity, craves to be with other people and to have that connection. And that's what helps to keep us sane, stimulated, curious about this, everything that's going on and how it feels for each of us. And sharing all of this, I think, is where if we can bring humanity back together, we can show and we can support each other in so many ways with health and wellness, as well as all the other things that are going on, that it's this connection. And in Chinese medicine, it's so fundamental, the connection to everything around us, within us and around us, and the people that we hold in our communities, and coming together with those communities, and the support and love that we can give to one another helps to keep us to live longer. But with disconnection, when we disconnect, we are more at risk of being isolated, even within ourselves, than. Do you see where I'm going with this? It's quite, I get quite passionate about how humanity is feeling as if we're being pulled apart. And it's the same with our health. We're being pulled away from what will keep us healthy and well. And that's community. It's about support, finding the people that are important to you, that support you, that are around you. And yeah, that's a big subject, Hamish, on his thoughts, feelings, and words.
I think you have perfectly summed it up there. Johann Hari says the opposite of addiction is connection. And I think what you've said there about connection with ourselves, with each other, is so important and so profound. And we are disconnected. We are so busy, as you said, running around, doing this, doing that, expectations, demands, that we are losing that connection. And that's a tragedy. It really is a tragedy.
It is very, very much. And if you look at history back through the generations, it was the community and the support of each community with each other and taking care of one another. Even going back and way, way further back, if you look at the bonobo apes, they keep, the closest to us as humans. They stay in groups. They nurture and care for each other in groups, and that's where we evolved from. Through, I don't know what your beliefs are. Here we go with beliefs, but it's looking at where we are as humans. It's almost like we're reaching this point where in our societies there's this division that is creating ill health and stress, all of the things around what's going on in our world. And it's by coming together in communities and finding our community where we feel nurtured and cared for. That's what's going to help us survive. And the more that we live disconnected from each other, the more our health will suffer. And it's been proven in research that's been done that we are at risk, a higher risk of all the diseases related to stress and isolation. And that is cancers, different new cancers that are coming forward through now, and the mental health. And there's a statistic to show that used to be that back pain was the number one cause of people being off work. But now it's stress and back pain, and the two are interlinked hugely because it's the nervous system and your mental health. And this, when we come together as communities and care for one another and support one another, our mental health is so much better because we're working together. We're supporting each other. And that to me is where this wonderful connection. And I think that smaller communities will in time be more healthy than people living in the cities, because unless they form communities themselves, But the further we disconnect as a society, the more at risk we are of developing diseases like obesity, cancer, what's the other one I'm thinking of? Depression is well on the increase. It doesn't have to be like that. And we as humans can actually make that change.
Fabulous. I think you've brought this to such a beautiful conclusion there. So thank you ever so much, Barbara.
You're welcome. And thank you for having me. I really enjoyed talking with you, Hamish. And anytime you want me to come again, I've got lots I can share.
We will definitely get you back on here as well. Yeah. But before you go, two things. Where can people find out more about you?
Okay. My website is meetbarbaraellis.com, and my whole story around why I'm doing what I'm doing is on there. And I am about to set up a membership which is going to bring people together and for me to help talk about and to show you different techniques and things that you can do to keep your health well. And that's going to be Vitality Reclaimed based my membership. That's in the process of being it. But you can also ring me. I am happy to talk and just to for people to call me and have a conversation. And that's the beginning of your journey with me to find out whether I am suited for you or you if you wish to proceed with me. And my number is 07552 450 102. I don't know if you wanted that. Put that in there. And also an email is vitalityreclaimed@gmail.com.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, I'll make sure that is in the show notes, and certainly your community, because that sounds really, really interesting. And lastly, what is your superpower that you got from your awakening?
My superpower is my belief that I can heal my own body without
Brilliant.
pills, drugs, whatever. It's just I have the ability to heal my own body.
Fabulous. I love that. I think that is so empowering, isn't it? Because we all have that capacity to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant, Barbara. Well, thank you ever so much for your time today, for sharing us your wisdom and those little tips that will definitely help people and me to breathe better and things like that. So thank you ever so much.
Thank you, Hamish. Thanks very much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Crucible, Conversations for the Curious. If these powerful stories of transformation resonated with you, be sure to like, subscribe and share this show with anyone who you think could do with a dose of inspiration for their own journey. I would really appreciate it if you could make any comments on your favourite podcast platform as well. That helps me reach more people. All the important links and information are in the show notes below. Thank you very much for listening, and catch up with you soon.